Today, I'm gonna give you a recap of the third episode from the apocalyptic series, The Last of Us. Joel is seen sitting by the river, piling up a series of rocks. This was some sort of tribute to Tess. They'd only gone 10 miles west of Boston, and already they had suffered major losses. The whole time, Joel is giving Ellie the silent treatment. Ellie tells him that no one forced him or Tess to escort her. She tells him that they needed her for their own purposes, so he shouldn't blame her for things that aren't her fault. Joel silently nods as if admitting she's correct. Ellie then asks how much longer they have to get to Bill and Frank, and Joel tells her it's about 5 hours away. As they're walking, Ellie asks how Joel got a scar near the temple of his head, and Joel tells her that somebody shot at him but missed. He also tells her that he shot back as well, but he also missed. When Ellie tells him that she should also have a gun, Joel quickly refuses. The two come to an abandoned gas station, where Joel says he's left a few things stashed away. As he was looking for his stash, Ellie talked about how she wanted to play the broken Mortal Kombat 2 arcade machine inside. Soon after, she starts exploring on her own. Ellie finds a door to the basement, where she finds an infected that was trapped under a pile of rubble. She pulls out her switchblade and gently cuts open his forehead to see what's inside, before stabbing him in the head. Joel manages to find his stash and leaves his gun with no ammo behind. However, Ellie doesn't tell Joel about the infected in the basement. As they're walking, they come across a crashed plane, and Ellie asks about Outbreak Day and how the world basically fell apart in a day. Joel tells her no one knows how the outbreak came to be, but the best guess is that the cordyceps mutated. He told her that some of it got into the food supply through a basic ingredient like flour or sugar, and that if a person ate enough, it could get you infected. When tainted food hit stores around the world at once, it didn't take long for many to get infected and start biting. And just like that, in a few days, the world was destroyed. Joel tries to make them take a shortcut to avoid seeing something Ellie shouldn't see, but of course this only makes Ellie want to see it even more. She finds a pile of human bones, most of which had luggage around them. Joel explains to her that a week after the outbreak, soldiers swept through the countryside, evacuated small towns, and told people they were moving to a quarantine zone. However, if there was no room, the people who likely weren't sick were killed and left there. When Ellie asks why they would do this, Joel tells her that dead people can't get infected. We then move to September 30th, 2003, when soldiers were gathering people in one such town. As everyone is being loaded into trucks, there is a house covered in cameras, and the man inside is watching the monitors underground as everyone leaves. We hear soldiers walking around above him in his basement, and he grabs his gun just in case. The soldiers don't find him, and the people are hauled out of town. This man seems to be in a Doomsday Prepper basement, covered in guns and supplies. He gets out of hiding armed to the teeth and with a gas mask on. When the coast is clear, he takes off his mask and smiles. This man is Bill. He has been preparing for years, and he makes the most of it. He steals a boat and gas from a local gas station, takes supplies from a boarded-up Home Depot, and breaks into a natural gas plant to get power back. He then grabs several boxes of wine from a local winery and then gets his own generator working. Bill then fortifies a fence around the town, plants his own vegetables, and raises his own animals. He sits himself down to eat a nice dinner made possible by all his hard work. It seems like a meal like that would be impossible in a post-Outbreak Day world. As he's eating dinner, his monitors show more cameras that were set up around town. He has also set traps to keep the infected away. In 2007, Bill was still on his own. He gets a notification that something is stuck in a hole outside his fence. When he goes to investigate, he cocks his gun before getting to the hole. The person inside said, "I'm not infected," and replied that he wasn't armed. The man said he was trying to get to Boston and that his group started with 10 people, but now he's the only one left. He came from the Baltimore quarantine zone, which is no more. Bill lets the man outside the hole, checks him to see if he's infected, and then points him in the direction of Boston at gunpoint. The stranger tells Bill he hasn't eaten in 2 days and introduces himself as Frank. Bill says that if he feeds Frank, everyone he tells about his free meal will come looking for a handout. However, Bill finds compassion for Frank and brings him into the house. Frank takes a warm shower and Bill brings him some fresh clothes. Frank is grateful for the shower, and Bill looks at the closed bathroom door as though he's forgotten the joys of another person. Bill and Frank share a meal, and throughout all this time, Frank's face is full of joy. As Frank is enjoying his meal, Bill pours him wine, and Frank notes that Bill knows what wine to pair with the rabbit. And just like that, the two connect. After dinner, Frank thanks Bill and says that he should be going. But before leaving, Frank goes to the piano, which he claimed to be eyeing all night. Frank looks through Bill's sheet music, but he says it isn't his. He then finds a collection of Linda Ronstadt songs and says, "This is you." Frank starts playing, but Bill stops him when he keeps playing the wrong notes and singing off-key. Frank says he'll go as soon as Bill correctly plays a song. Bill beautifully plays a song and Frank looks on. Frank asks who the girl is that Bill's singing about, but Bill tells him that there is no girl. Frank then gently kisses Bill, a moment of intimacy that leaves Frank crying and Bill almost shaking with joy. Bill finally introduces himself, and Frank tells Bill to take a shower. After Bill comes out of the shower, the two share a moment of intimacy in bed. Bill admits that he's never done this with a man, but he once had sex with a woman. Frank says he'll start with the simple things, and as he goes on top of Bill, he says he's not someone who has sex for lunch. He also says that if he does this, he's gonna stay a few more days, and Bill agrees. The two gently hold each other and kiss softly, and they have a moment of intimacy they will never forget. 3 years later, though, we see Frank saying "fuck you" as he leaves Bill's house. The two are fighting after Frank asks for some paint and a little gas for the lawnmower. Frank wants to make the street look nicer, saying that they will soon have some friends over. As they're arguing, Frank mentions that he's been talking to a nice lady over the radio. It turns out that the woman is Tess, and Bill and Frank had invited her and Joel to their home. As they eat, Bill keeps his gun on the table, unnerved by strangers being around. Frank and Tess agree that they'll be working together in the future, leaving Joel and Bill alone. Even though Joel tries to convince Bill that they can help each other, Bill maintains that he doesn't need help from Joel or Tess. Joel points out the faultiness of Bill's fence, and he says that he can get him supplies that will last them for the rest of their lives. As Tess and Joel leave, Frank talks about having a radio code, while Joel tells Bill that even though their home is well protected, there will be raiders. And eventually, Bill agrees. 3 years later, in 2013, we see Bill has fortified the fence even more, piling cars to make a blockade. Bill and Frank were jogging around the neighborhood when Frank said he had a surprise. Frank had secretly planted a garden of strawberries after trading a gun for seeds from Joel and Tess. The two enjoy the strawberries as Bill giggles with joy. Bill apologizes to Frank, saying he's getting older faster than he is. He also stated that he was never scared before Frank showed up. We then see a rainy night when some raiders show up outside Bill's gate. Bill's traps catch some of the men aflame. Frank then wakes up to flames and gunshots, but Bill is nowhere to be seen. Frank then grabs a gun and goes outside, where he finds Bill in the middle of the street, shooting raiders with a sniper rifle. When Bill gets shot in the side, Frank brings him inside. Bill gives details on how Frank will go on once he's gone, as Frank treats the bullet wound. Bill then tells Frank to call Joel, saying that Joel will take care of him, as he can't stay here alone. However, Frank tells him that he's not alone since Bill is here. This is their first real danger together. 10 years later, we see both men are older, and Frank is now sick and in a wheelchair. Frank has started painting, and he has some gorgeous pieces. However, the sickness makes it hard for him to complete his latest work, which is a portrait of Bill. At dinner, we see that Frank is on a liquid diet and taking quite a few pills for his illness. At night, Bill has to carry Frank to bed. The following day, Bill wakes up to find Frank in his wheelchair. Frank tells him it took him all night to get there. This irritates Bill, who thinks Frank will fall asleep in his chair. However, Frank tells him that he'll be staying awake since he has decided that this is his last day. The two then sit together, and Bill has been crying. With tears in both of their eyes, Frank admits that he's had more good days with Bill than anyone else. He then asks for just one more good one. Frank asks Bill to make him some toast. Then they go to the neighborhood's boutique, which Frank had fixed. They make a plan for how they're gonna pick out outfits and then get married. After that, Bill will cook a delicious dinner, crush all of Frank's pills and put them in his wine. Bill will then carry Frank upstairs to their bedroom, where Frank will fall asleep in Bill's arms. Bill refuses, but Frank tells him that he should love him the way he wants him to. The two go through the day that Frank had planned, and they even exchange rings and kiss. After a meal and 2 glasses of wine with pills, Frank asks Bill to take him to bed. The two head to the bed and spend their last few moments of life together in each other's arms. Sometime later, Joel and Ellie arrive in Bill and Frank's town. The flowers are dying and Bill and Frank's door is unlocked. There's also the remains of their final meal on the table, covered in dust. As Joel is investigating, he finds Bill in Frank's room barricaded. Ellie then finds a letter from Bill with a car key on top. The letter was addressed to whoever, but probably Joel. Ellie reads the note, which says not to go in the bedroom. Bill writes that they can take whatever they need, and he states that he never really liked Joel. Bill also says that he hated the world and he was happy when everyone died. But there was one person worth saving. Bill also writes that Joel can have all of his weapons to keep. Ellie then stops reading and Joel finishes it, saying that Joel should use the weapons to keep Tess safe. Joel leaves the house and seems sad about not being able to protect Tess. In the garage, he finds Bill's truck. Joel then finds the ingredients to make a battery in the refrigerator. Joel looks at Ellie's arm and it still hasn't changed. Joel accepts this and he says that he's charging the battery to go look for his brother, Tommy. Joel gives Ellie a bunch of rules if they're to travel together. As they grab what they can, Joel once again denies Ellie's request for a gun. Ellie looks around the home alone, and when she finds another gun, she hides it in her bag. The two then shower and load up before getting into the truck. They head for Wyoming, and we see the truck depart from the open window to Bill and Frank's bedroom, where the two will remain together in each other's arms forever. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more movies like this one.